Are we turning into China?
There are worse places to turn into. I kind of like China, frankly.
Really?
Yeah.
When's the last time you were there?
It's been a bit. 2014, 2015 maybe.
Okay.
Or so. But I like growing up, like I was really, like we didn't have the term weeaboo yet, but me and my friends, we loved like Akira, and we called it Japanimation back then, like anime, right? Like I remember when Hollywood Video changed the shelf from Japanimation to anime, and we were like, anime? What the fuck is this? And we're like, that's how they say it in Japan, right? Anyway, so I always loved Japan growing up, right? And it didn't mean I hated China, but it was like my preference would have been, if I can go anywhere in the world, I would love to go to Japan.
Yes.
And I ended up pitching and then getting roped into some stories in China, like, which I was equally excited to do, but I never thought China would be my thing. And then I went there and I was like, this place rules. This feels like what I assume 1970s America felt like.
What?
These people are awesome. This place is great.
How so?
Well, I mean, it's, speaking in crass generalizations, it's a bunch of second generation farmers who were just yanked into modernity like 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago at this point or whatever. Like, people spit in the streets constantly. You see comb-overs that you can't believe. No one expects to be filmed or appear on TV. They don't have that like star lust that's just like endemic to the average American. They're just kind of going about their own fucking business. And I would, when I'd go somewhere, we had a really cool office too. We had a foreign office in China, Vice China. Yeah. And the editor was this rad gal named Maddie Ju, right? I might be fucking up her last name.
Maddie Ju, shout out.
And then this other guy I forget his title there, but he ruled. His name was Billy Starman. Anyway, they were, served as fixers, helped me around like with the rest of the crew and all that. And, anytime I go somewhere, you at least try to learn, like, how do I say, like, please and thank you in the language, or like, how do I go to the bathroom? Or excuse me would be a big one, just so like, you can at least learn those 10 phrases in any language, right? And so I was trying to do that with Mandarin, and they gave me, ni hao, shu shu, the basics and stuff. And I was like, how do you say please? And they're like, we don't really use that very often. They're like, don't worry about that. And I was like, oh, okay, well, how about like, excuse me, like just the basic, if I bump into someone or if I do something wrong or whatever. And they're like, yeah. They're like, we never say that.
No man.
They're like, but what I can tell you, they're just like, but let me tell you how to say stupid, and that's shabi. And I was like, oh, okay. So they taught me shabi, nubi, which is like, they were like, that means fuck yeah. And I was like, doesn't that literally mean cow vagina? And they're like, there you go, you're catching on, right? And then like tsonima, which is like, I'm butchering these, like, no doubt, which it means fuck your mom. And they taught me that. They were like, don't say that to people. People will actually fight you over that.
Oh, really?
But then one time I was there and I was having it was like November. I was in Beijing, and Beijing is kind of like Washington DC. It's not my favorite city. I got to go to a lot of different parts of China, and that was I don't prefer Beijing, whatever. It was like raining and shitty, and we're staying at this hotel where in the morning, these like shady adoption services would bring a Chinese baby that was going to be adopted to an American couple. And for some reason, all the American couples, like we saw this over and over for like a week and a half. There was always different couples. And I want to say all of them, but at least the majority were lesbian couples, which is kind of funny. So it's like 6 a.m, we'd be getting up and going, getting ready to get our coffee or whatever. And that's when they would be introducing these American would-be parents to their adoptive children. So it just had a real kind of fucked up mood there. And then my underwear kept getting stolen, which the other members of the crew were like, no one's stealing your underwear. I'm like, I'm not out here trying to accuse some fucking maid of stealing my underwear, but it's like, but where is my goddamn underwear? Like, why do I have 0 underwear? And then I mentioned it to Maddie and Billy Starman, and they're like, oh, they 100% stole your underwear. I was like, see, thank you. It's like the Chinese back me up on this, right? And anyway, so, and I got like slightly sick, and it was like ice rain, right? Like Beijing's like, I think on the same latitude as like Minneapolis. So it gets like nasty there, Right. Anyway, so I had to go buy underwear on like a day off that was technically like a sick day. And I just remember having my underwear, not being happy about having to like go out and find a shopping mall, standing in like ice rain without an umbrella. And I was like 2 miles from the hotel. And so I was trying to get a cab. And every time I'd tell the cab driver the name of the hotel, they'd just peel off. Like, I think the deal was it wasn't far enough to be worth it. They wanted to take me to the airport or something like that. And just like they were going to go find a better fare. And the third or fourth cab who did it, I just momentarily lost my mind. He rolled up the window, started to pull off, and I kicked his door, like the back passenger side door. And I yelled, "Sony Ma!" Maybe I did it better, maybe not.
Fuck your mother?
Yeah, fuck your mom, right? And he then brake lights immediately, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was so stupid." I was like, now I'm drenched, I'm freezing, I have like the flu or something, holding my underwear like a chump, and now I'm gonna get in a fight or whatever. And he backed up, and I was like, I had nowhere to go. Like it was a crowded sidewalk, and he rolled down the window, and I saw his face, and he was like, "Hey," he's like, "Hop in," and I was like. And I got in the car, and he just took me straight back to the hotel. Knew exactly where it was.
You got moxie,
didn't overcharge me. He was talking to me the whole time, and I was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, that, whatever." I don't speak Mandarin, but keep the ball rolling with you. And I mentioned that to like Maddie and Billy the next day, and they were like, "Dude, you're learning." They're like, "You're adapting to Chinese culture."
That's hilarious. Like, so they got a sense of humor.
Oh fuck yeah! That's an important. I'm trying to think. Anywhere in the world I've been where people aren't, in general, funny. That's a big thing about Iraq. I got to go to Iraq twice, and the northern part, which is safer, was until ISIS. Fuck. And then I know a couple kids who like were Americans but grew up in Baghdad, or one's from Mosul. And those guys are the funniest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. Like, I think a major sort of sense of cultural friction that maybe could have been avoided in the build up to the Iraq war. Cause I've also spoken about this to I was going to say a bunch, but a single soldier who had been in Iraq mid 2000s, I forget what year, whose sense of the Iraqis was, he was like, "Oh, these are backwards, rural, goat herding people." And it's like my sense of Baghdadis especially, but Iraqis in general, I was like, those guys are the New Yorkers of the Middle East. I was like, they are from an 800-year-old urban environment. They act like guys who grew up in the Bronx, basically, which is not without its own set of, issues. But it's like, I wonder if, it's just a little pet theory that it's like, if American soldiers were taught that, then I'd be like, watch out for these guys. They can shiest you sometimes, but they're overwhelmingly funny, and they like joking, and they like, so don't get your panties in a twist if they're joking with you or whatever. Recognize this, how that might have affected the war. If like all the American soldiers didn't think there's like, oh, these guys are rednecks, like who don't understand anything. Right.
Yeah, these guys have a personality and a sense of humor.
They're human beings, right?
What is it about? What is it about these specific cultures and parts of the world that like makes people like that? Because I would never fucking imagine, I would never guess in a million years that somebody in fucking China or Iraq would be like that.
It would be funny.
You would. I just imagine them to be fucking blank, no emotion,
inscrutable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you got to go there and meet them. They're not all funny, but in general.
Sure.
They're pretty fucking funny. Swear like those goddamn sailors. Once you learn, like I only learned like 5 or 6 swear words, but then I was just like, whoa, like you guys,
they aren't offended,
letting everyone have it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it has something to do with like living in a shitty fucking being in a shitty situation your whole life. You kind of have to have a sense of humor to get through it. Maybe
could be. Yep.
What So working in China though, like doing journalism in China, were there any fucking guidelines you guys had to abide by?
Did they come and throw us in the clink? Yeah, no. We were doing like cultural shit though, right?
You didn't talk about
Tiananmen Square,
PLA or anything?
Oh, not that either. Yeah, or the Uyghurs. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No. Were there?
Was that a rule or was that a choice?
It was a choice. That just wasn't the stories I was there to cover. People love to be like that, especially like about Vice. They were like, "Whoa, would you ever write a story?" While I was working at Vice, like write a story about the founders of Vice, and I was like, I was like, now you're gonna make it sound like if I say no, it sounds like
you're a part
I'm
of it.
afraid of doing something. I was like, why would I be fucking interested in that in the first place? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, no, it was like a thing about dating due to the gender disparity, which is kind of like a lingering effect of the
what's it?
one-child policy.
The one-child policy, right?
So it left. I don't know if this is evened out over the years, but a woman named Mara Vistendahl wrote a really good book, whose name I don't remember, but it's about how whereas in most parts of the world, women are slightly disproportionate to men, that in China it's the reverse, that there's more men than women, and it has these weird effects. Like, we were there specifically, like, inspired by that book to try dating and to meet matchmakers and to go to weird things where, guys grow up in villages where there's almost literally no women, and so they have to go to the city and find one, or they have to try to online date and da-da-da-da-da. And then what else? Yeah. So, no, nobody fucked with us, but we had our paperwork in order. We were there with, Chinese nationals who ran an edition of the magazine. Although, and that edition started in 2009 or 10, maybe later, there was a little bit of back and forth sometimes between the editors, because, the website was supposed to be this kind of collecting place for all the different foreign editions of Vice. So you could see something from Vice Germany, that'd be cool because, who knows anything about what's going on in Germany right now or whatever. And there'd be some like anti-CCP, like not anti-Chinese, but anti-Communist Party things occasionally. And the Chinese editors would be like, hey, like we can't have this show up on our side of the site. We need to, kind of cordon this off. This could actually get us in trouble, Different places though, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Did you
Anyway, it didn't feel like an Orwellian shithole.
It didn't feel like an Orwellian shithole.